Hi, this is Carla Sanford, Beef Extension Specialist with Montana State University. Today I wanted to provide some information about artificial insemination in beef cattle. Let's first consider the question, what makes a heifer or cow valuable in your operation? While we could all pick out some attributes like structural correctness, being genetically superior, heavy milking, docility, or a number of others, the common thread should be a pregnant one. I would even go as far as a female that conceives in the first 21-day period, or that first cycle of the breeding season. One that maintains the pregnancy, gives birth to a healthy and viable calf, then raises it, and then gets rebred early in the subsequent calving season. Reproductive efficiency. So there are some tools that we can use to help our females be more reproductively efficient. There are actually several assisted reproductive technologies that have revolutionized livestock production in the last century. By using bull collection and collecting genetically superior bulls and then having semen cryopreservation, we now have frozen semen that can be used for insemination. We even have 50-year-old semen, frozen semen, that has been successful in producing pregnancies in both dairy and beef production sectors in the past year. And we can take these genetically superior bulls. We can have one bull sire many more calves than he would during natural service. Instead of having to pay $5,000 for one bull, we can spend $20 to get semen from a proven, exceptional bull and not have to worry about feeding extra cattle through the Montana winter. Historically, we have used heat detection with artificial insemination, but through research and development of estrus synchronization, or synchronization of estrus and ovulation, producers can decide the day and even the time they want to breed their females and create synchrony in the reproductive cycles of a group of females. Another technology that's becoming more popular is using sex-sorted semen. The dairy industry uses female-sorted semen in their top milk-producing cows to generate replacement heifers. Use of sex-sorted semen is beneficial to the beef producer because we can either use male-sorted semen to generate more carcass quality, high carcass quality animals, and have higher weaning weights, or bulls perhaps in a seed stock operation, or using female-sorted semen to produce or generate more replacement heifers. But today I wanted to specifically spend some time talking about artificial insemination. There are numerous reasons or benefits to consider incorporating artificial insemination into an operation. The most obvious is the opportunity to, again, purchase semen from a genetically superior bull and use expected progeny differences, or EPDs, data that would help strengthen your herd. We can simply pay $20 for a unit versus thousands on the purchasing of a bull. Also for disease prevention that could occur during natural service. AI also allows a young bull to sire more calves and providing more information about its potential in a very short period of time versus years over natural service in a herd. But also, one of the most advantageous benefits is that of labor. Okay, so it concentrates your breeding and calving season, which in return is going to give you a more uniform calf crop, more calves born earlier in the calving season. Thus, you're going to have heavier weaning weights, and this allows you to be more strategic with the use of your labor and resources on the ranch. AI is also a great tool for breeding heifers. You can use a bull that really complements your operation goals, and then also, of course, using one with one that we can expect to give calving ease or to minimize dystocia occurrence, because let's face it, nobody likes to pull calves. Artificial insemination can be used without any kind of manipulation of the estrus cycle. by monitoring a female or a heifer or cow, or even a group of them, and then simply watching to see which females stand to be mounted or standing heat. We would then inseminate them 12 hours later with conventional semen using the AM/PM rule. So if they come into heat in the AM, 8 a.m., we would then wait 12 hours and breed them at 8 p.m. But with estrus synchronization, we can use our knowledge of the cow's estrus cycle and create synchrony in the females. And so we can have them come into heat and ovulate at a specific time or range, kind of a range of hours, which is going to allow us to schedule our breeding task. So you can have the control to say, okay, we're going to breed on this day and start at this time. And synchronization protocols will have the best results for heifers and cows that are currently cycling, but we can use progesterone incorporating protocols that includes the Cedar or feeding MGA to actually induce anestrus females into estrus. And that could be that replacement heifer that's prepubertal or that cow that is at post-calving, that post-calving anestrus. So instead of AIing over the course of weeks, it can actually occur in a day or days depending on group sizes. And then you're going to result in more pregnancies early in the breeding season and shorten that calving season. And so estrus synchronization can help reduce and eliminate that heat detection that you would use simply by watching and then doing the AM/PM rule. It's going to give you a more uniform calf crop. We can have more females bred to those superior bulls that we're not having to purchase. And then we can use estrus synchronization for natural service, artificial insemination, time artificial insemination, fixed time artificial insemination, as well as incorporating it into an embryo transfer protocol. And many consider estrus synchronization just to be for purebred operators, but it can really be used for one heifer or one cow or many, and it should be considered by purebred, commercial, and youth project producers. So as I mentioned, using the knowledge of the estrus cycle, we can have more females in estrus at one time. And so the estrus cycle is the period between one estrus and the next. While estrus is the time where we see heifers or cows stand to be mounted, which you can see in this picture here. And this occurs every 21 days, but it can range from 18 to 24. And over the course of the 21 days, there are going to be different hormones and different phases that occur. And the cow has 2 ovaries and is born with a set number of eggs. An egg is housed within a follicle. And during estrus cycle, there will be a number of follicles that grow until ovulation occurs or the release of that mature egg. With each estrus cycle, there is a long luteal phase, which starts after an egg is ovulated. Then cells fill in where that egg was released from that large follicle, and it creates a CL or a corpus luteum. This structure is really important because it produces progesterone, which is needed for the establishment of pregnancy. And when fertilization and pregnancy don't occur, then the hormone prostaglandin will increase and rupture that CL, which you can see in this picture. There are 2 main hormones of reproduction, estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen is produced by the follicles in the ovary, and it's the hormone that causes our female to express estrus or that standing heat. It also causes the surge of GnRH or gonadotropin releasing hormone when progesterone is not elevated. While progesterone, most commonly known as the hormone of pregnancy, is produced by that CL that we just briefly talked about. And when progesterone is high, this will actually inhibit estrus and ovulation, and again is critical to pregnancy. Some other hormones that act during this 21-day period is follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, which is responsible for follicular growth, which we use for superovulating or ovulating multiple follicles during embryo transfer. Luteinizing hormone, or LH, which is also responsible for follicular growth, but also mostly important for ovulation. That gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH again. And this is critical because GnRH actually controls FSH and LH production and is responsible for a surge in LH, which is going to give rise to that ovulation of that egg being released. Prostaglandin F2 alpha, or PG, which is going to cause the regression of the CL on the ovaries, and then progesterone production will cease at that point. So using our knowledge of the estrous cycle, we can then use analogs of these naturally occurring hormones to synchronize our females. And the recommended protocols for beef cattle commonly incorporate one or a combination of products, GnRH, progestin, as well as PG products. Here are some of the FDA approved drugs that we use. One thing that I like to point out is that we have a conventional luteolase and a high-con luteolase. The high-con luteolase injection calls for 2 cc's or 2 mLs of the injection given intramuscularly or subcutaneously in the neck, versus conventional luteolase is 5 mLs or 5 cc's intramuscular. So care should be taken to ensure that the right dosage is given. I say this because I've seen it in instances where it was not, and there was not as many females that actually were in the right state to be inseminated. So definitely want to pay close attention to that. And then we have progestins that we will typically use. So we have 2 options here, MGA and Cedars. So MGA is that we can feed as a dry feed or as liquid, versus a Cedar is an intravaginal insert that we will place that it's impregnated with progesterone. So either MGA or Cedars can be really beneficial at inducing those cows that are still in estrus post-calving, as well as heifers that have not obtained puberty. I want to take some time to point out that the timing of insemination is extremely critical. So you definitely want to follow these estrus synchronization protocols to the T to get as many pregnancies as possible. And the reason why it's so time critical is because estrus, or that standing heat which we see in this picture, is only going to occur anywhere from 12 to 18 hours. And then if we consider ovulation, this is going to occur at hour 30, for example. And that egg is only viable for 8 to 10 hours. So taking this into consideration, we have to make sure that we are inseminating the sperm at the most opportune time for fertilization to occur. And sperm actually will only be viable for 18 to 24 hours. So that means we have a very tight window where our spermatozoa are still viable and the egg is still viable. So that's that optimum time for fertilization, which is quite short if you consider it 6 hours. I want to also bring up that when we are using conventional semen, so not the sex sorted, we want to inseminate conventional semen 12 hours after standing heat, okay? So hour 0 would be that first notice or first indication that she's in standing heat, and we make a note of that and record it. And let's assume she is in standing heat at 7 a.m. 12 hours later, 7 p.m., we're going to inseminate with that conventional semen. Now, if you are using sex-sorted semen, we actually need to inseminate later. And so you want to inseminate 16 to 20 hours after standing heat if you're using sex-sorted semen. So the Beef Reproduction Task Force is a group of faculty that develop and study synchronization protocols for use in beef cattle. And each year they update the protocols, and they include recommendations for heifers, cows, for use in Bos Taurus versus Bos Indicus cattle. And these protocols can actually be used for natural service as well as to incorporate artificial insemination. And you can choose what works best for your operation and your ranch. If you have the labor and the time, you can choose to use heat detection, or if that is an issue, you can actually use time artificial insemination and fixed time artificial insemination. And so we can incorporate heat detection, or we can choose to eliminate heat detection and breed all of those females at one time. With heat detection, you can do this by a couple of different ways. There are actually numerous out there, but you can use patches, adhesive patches that are placed up on the tail head of the animal. And so when she is mounted by another heifer, another cow, it's actually going to scratch off a coating on this adhesive patch. And when at least 50% of that patch is rubbed off, you're going to know that she was in standing heat, and you're going to breed 12 hours later with conventional, or 16 to 20 with that sex sorted. Or you can simply ride out into the pens, the lot, the pasture, and visually watch and record ear tag numbers, brands of those animals that were in standing heat, and then breed off of that time. Now we can have some protocols that use heat detection alone. So the one shot prostaglandin, the 7-day Cedar with prostaglandin, the MGA, which is that we feed with a shot of prostaglandin, versus your heat detect and time AI. So there are several options there. Versus we can also use fixed time artificial insemination. And here are several options. You'll notice there are short-term protocols and long-term protocols to really be able to give you some flexibility with what works at your operation. And if we look, 3 of those protocols that were on the fixed time artificial insemination recommended protocols, we can compare these. And these have been studied with use in beef heifers. And there was some work done with the Missouri Show Me Select Replacement Heifer Program. And the pregnancy rates, as we can see here, were similar for the heifers that were bred using a 7-day co-sync plus Cedar protocol. But there were more heifers that became pregnant using the 14-day Cedar protocol. And this was for the total animals, but also for those heifers that were pubertal and prepubertal. So we can typically expect at least 50% success in these artificial insemination protocols. But with this one, I would recommend using the 14-day Cedar protocol in our beef heifers. Similar to the heifers, there are cow protocols that can fit with any operation, whether you use heat detection, use time AI, or fixed time AI. One of the most popular protocols for cows is the 7-day co-sync and Cedar protocol. And here we would essentially gather the females, give each a 2 cc or ml injection in the neck, and insert a new Cedar. On day 7, we would remove that Cedar, give an injection of prostaglandin. So for example, either 5 cc's of luteolise or 2 cc's of that high con luteolise. And 60 to 66 hours later, that would be the best time to start inseminating the group. And you could also add heat patches on day 7 and AI any females that express estrus. A GnRH injection would not be necessary in these females that are expressing estrus, and you're breeding off of that. And then on day 10, you would inseminate any females that you have not yet inseminated or expressed estrus. And these actually would need an injection of GnRH. So that's something I want to point out there. One resource that I'd like to offer to you is the Estrus synchronization planner. So this is an Excel spreadsheet planner that was developed by the Beef Reproduction Task Force team. And you can essentially go in there and compare what protocols you want to use, and it will give you a calendar of on what days you're going to perform those tasks, how much to inject, as well as at what time to do so. It also is going to give some really vital tips, give you a breakdown of the protocols, and it's also really nice because it will do a cost analysis and tell you how much each protocol is going to really cost, and so you can make that decision of what protocol is best to use in your situation. In summary, artificial insemination and estrus synchronization can be used on both small and large operations and should be considered not only by purebred operators but also commercial. It definitely gives us the ability to use the superior genetics and rapidly improve the genetic pool of our herds. It allows us to have custom mating. It also reduces the number of bulls that we have to have that initial investment in to purchase, but then also to maintain and have to feed. So I would definitely recommend you contacting your local veterinarian or AI technicians in your area to try to determine which protocols to use, and then also be able to hire someone to come on and inseminate your animals. These are going to be valuable folks to talk with and determining what's going to be best for your operation, the resources that you have, and where you see your operation in years to come. One key thing that I want to leave with is that cattle need to be in good health, nutritional status. They need to have at least a 45 days postpartum time for our cows post-calving, and replacement heifers need to be at least 55% mature body weight by the time we breed them. And so this is critical so that we can get the most out of our estrus synchronization and artificial insemination programs. Here's a list of several resources I wanted to offer. So again, that Estrus synchronization planner is free from the Iowa Beef Center. It's a great tool to help with making breeding decisions like synchronization, which synchronization protocol to use. You can compare synchronization protocols, it'll tell you how many times you need to work the cattle, the cost associated with each protocol, and then the planner produces a calendar for each scheduling task, such as injections, how much, at what time, and when to inseminate the females. Also, there is the Beef Reproduction Task Force website. So this group actually holds an annual conference to provide information about what research is being conducted, new protocols that are added to the recommended heifer protocols, be it heifer or cow, as well as have some other informative presentations. And then here's a list of several major cattle breeding companies where we have technicians around the state that could come and assist with inseminating your animals. And then lastly, here is our Montana State University Extension Beef Cattle Program website. And thanks for taking the time to learn more about artificial insemination. I'd like to invite you to follow Montana State University Beef Extension on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks and have a great day.